What's poppin', friends? Matt here with another episode of Influence. And as many of you know, I have another podcast. I have a variety of shows in the works at all times, fortunately or unfortunately. But I do a video game podcast with my colleague and friend, Colette Bennett. It is called Colette and Matt Have Entered the Chat. And I've syndicated conversations from that feed over to this one on many an occasion. And I thought it would be relevant to do so once again because Colette was away. We were going to do a joint interview, but I still was able to schedule our colleague and friend of the shows. Her name is Anna Valens, and she has been covering internet culture and LGBTQ plus issues and online culture for a long time, specifically when it comes to video games and adult-themed video games. I did not realize how thorough and rich her beat had been, is currently, how much expertise she had in that particular area. And you might think, well, porn and adult games like those are things that are relevant to the communities that enjoy them. But the reason I wanted to unpack that was because what is going on now and what has, the news that has broken over the last week or so has far-reaching ramifications for internet censorship and who has power over what we can and cannot do and enjoy and say and who we can be on the internet. And it's coming from a very unlikely place. And as you break it open, it's probably it is actually very likely and very, very clear what's going on here. But I think when we talk about internet censorship, we think about governments doing such things. We think about platforms deciding what is and is not allowed on their servers. But over the past week, or perhaps maybe two-ish weeks, by the time you're hearing this, news has broken that Steam, the video game platform owned by Valve, and itch.io, or some people say itch.io, these are platforms where you can buy video games and play them on your computer, your personal computer. And many adult-themed games had been removed in what feels like a sudden move. And all of this has been traced back to Visa and Mastercard threatening these platforms, or basically providing ultimatums for these platforms, saying if you do not remove this content from your platform, we will not process payments, which would be devastating to online marketplaces, as we know. And the reason, as journalists like Anna had figured out, is that they had been pressured by this random ass conservative, conservative Christian based lobbyist group or activist group in Australia, of all places, called Collective Shout. And it turns out that they had been cozying up to payment processors in an effort to, decide what can and cannot be played on Steam. And all of a sudden, the entire, I'm saying that with air quotes, the entire internet, certainly the mainstream gaming, video game communities and news outlets were like, holy shit, if Visa and MasterCard decide not to process payments for whatever, then they get to decide what is allowed on the internet. And that's shocking. That's eye-opening. And a lot of people journalists and activist groups were like, yeah, well, it's only a matter of time before these groups decide that LGBTQ plus content is not. I'll back up. All of this is in the name of protecting children, of course. So we don't want kids to play pornographic video games. They are honing in on games with incest and non-consensual sexual content, which obviously these things are problematic, but also if consenting adults want to pay for and enjoy artwork that does not depict actual people, that is a freedom and a right that is probably legally guaranteed by laws and constitutions of various countries. So like, and we get into this in my conversation with Anna, which I do hope you'll continue to listen to. It's a very worrisome moment for internet commerce, and I find it fascinating and terrifying at the same moment. So what has transpired since I recorded this conversation with Anna, by the way, before I say that, the reason I even reached out to her was because she had been writing for Vice, the website, formerly the magazine, of course. They have a video game vertical / site called Waypoint. And I realized that her coverage of this issue and her tracing it back to conservative action groups, those articles were removed from Vice after she published them. And she subsequently quit. Rightfully so. So not only are games being censored by forces that we do not have control over, but the journalism around that issue is also being censored by the corporations that run these publications, at least in the case of Vice. So like, we are now in a political climate where, at least here in the US, we have people who are writing bills to ban pornography on the internet. We have activism groups saying what can and cannot be sold on Steam. We have global corporations like Visa and Mastercard deciding to just refuse payment unless you step in line with whatever the fuck guidelines or standards they're putting forth. What I'm trying to say is it's a really big story. It's much bigger than video games. It's much bigger than any specific online community. And Anna, who I just happen to know from working with her and know her work to be excellent, all of a sudden I see her name popping up in this coverage and I'm like, holy shit, we got to talk about this. So it's a truly wonderful, excellent, scary, and also empowering conversation that I wanted to bring over to this feed as well. So I do hope you'll check it out. I really haven't, I've given you the lay of the land. I haven't spoiled too much of it here because we really get into the nitty gritty and the situation has evolved. So the last thing I'll leave you with is that her outlook is cautiously optimistic and very empowering and very motivating, that we, internet citizens, video game enthusiasts, free speech, advocates, advocates of free public discourse or whatever we want to call it, we can bring the fight. We can fight. We can push back against this. And I was like, I don't know. This is the only way to buy things on the internet, sort of. They've got us by the balls. And she said, well, maybe there's a way forward. And in the days since we've recorded this conversation, there really has been an uproar and there has been many headlines and lots of pushback. And even some of these platforms are starting to explore alternative payment methods. Even PayPal and Stripe were also refusing to process. So, is there a way to buy and sell things on the internet that bypasses Visa or MasterCard or PayPal? There are. We know there are. And, maybe there's a way forward. So I think this is a fascinating conversation, and I think it's not getting enough discussion in the mainstream discourse, I suppose. So I wanted to bring it to you here. It's an excellent episode, and I think you will enjoy it, and I think you could be energized by it. And then I am thrilled to say that I had just a fantastic conversation with Greg Miller of Kinda Funny Games, CEO and founder of that fine website and streaming platform. And we had a great time talking about their journey and their amazing timing launching an independent video game outlet at the exact moment when fan funding and Patreon and those types of platforms were just starting to become viable. And it allowed him and his colleagues to build the business that they wanted, as opposed to being employees of IGN or other, larger corporate media outlets. So, I just find his story and his outlook and his positivity and his activism. He campaigned for Kamala Harris and also has been very outspoken about our current administration and protesting at No King's Day and such. So, using his very large platform to build an ethical business that is rooted in fandom and utilizing his visibility to, do things that are right and do things that are important. So I'm looking forward to sharing that episode with Greg on the next one. For now, please enjoy this conversation with Anna Valens over on the other feed, and buckle up because there's a lot to talk about. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for sharing. And I will talk with you in the next episode. Bye.
Here we go! Stay a while and listen. It's good!
Greetings, friends and neighbors. Welcome back to Colette and Matt have Entered the Chat, a weekly conversation about video games, video game culture, video game news, video game journalism? My name is Matt Silverman. I'm but one half of this fine program, and I regret to inform you that Colette Bennett, is the co-host of the show, whom you know and love, is, let's just say she's out on assignment. And that assignment is vacation, going away. I think she's meeting up with some friends or family, having a nice long weekend. And we wish her the best, but I'm not alone. I could never do this alone because I have an old pal, a colleague, dare I say a friend, certainly a friend of the show. And she is a games journalist who has done outstanding work in a lot of different beats that I find really fascinating. But she is here today because she has been covering a story that has really blown up over the last couple of days. I don't know that it's even been a full week, and we're going to get deep in the weeds on it here. It's something that we didn't quite touch on last week because it was sort of emerging and we didn't really know what to make of it, but now it has gone full force, and I have many, many questions, and I'm very excited to welcome Anna Valens to the podcast. Hello, welcome.
Thanks, Matt.
The crowd's going wild.
I gotta say, I loved that intro music and also the clapping too. Oh my god, I was like bopping in my seat. I had to be very quiet. I didn't want any of the chair squeaks to hit.
No, squeak away, and we've got other sounds here if you like, whatever you need.
I feel right at home.
How are you? How's it going? You've had a week.
I've had a week. Yeah, it's been crazy. I definitely feel like, I'm, Matt and I, we used to work together, kind of in different departments, but we would kind of come together certain times at Daily Dot. And I'm sure, well, Matt, that I was the spiciest of spicy writers at Daily Dot.
What was your core beat? Was it NSFW stuff, or were you all over the map with that?
Yeah, I remember even one time, I'm not sure if you remember this, it was an all hands meeting. We had our monthly meeting, and I actually confronted our CEO, basically saying, "What are you going to do for my NSFW beat?" So I was quite the I wasn't just spicy. I was a bit of a go getter. I wasn't afraid to talk to my boss's boss's boss.
Did you hammer out that beat for yourself? Did you will it into existence, or was there like an editorial need or interest for it?
I think it was a little bit of all of the above. Basically, what ended up happening is I feel like this is actually a good segue to even talk about my history as a journalist. I started as a freelance writer in games journalism in 2014, doing like technically 2012 as a collegiate journalist, writing
Okay.
for my Rutgers University, my alma mater's newspaper. And I found over time, as I started working for Daily Dot in 2016, 2017, it was just so happened to be the case that we needed, search engine optimized content. And a lot of
Yes.
that content was around sex and sexuality. So it ended up being a beat I really liked covering. I had some experience at like a more clickbaity site doing that kind of work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it just ended up happening, that one thing led to another. And we found that reporting on, adult topics was a good fit for me. And even after I moved away from Daily Dot, I was still covering the topic at a sister company of Daily Dot, Gamers, because at the time, Dot Esports.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
Dot
that's right.
Esports
They
split from it.
Gamers bought the esports vertical, which was a foolhardy transaction in my humble opinion, not being privy to the business, because the work that the esports team was doing in the earliest days of esports coverage was extraordinary, and I felt like it was could have really been something big, and they sold it off for not enough money in my recollection. But anyway.
I agree. I mean, let me put it this way: Daily Dot still going strong. Gamers, they sold off Dot Esports, so there you go. That
I
tells
think
the story.
I did see that.
Yeah.
You probably know better than me, but I find this fascinating. I find your beat fascinating because in a world where media companies like ours were scrambling to get traffic to pay the bills, it was often about Facebook and social media and, of course, SEO. But there was this, as you just alluded to, this gold mine of people searching and wanting coverage of sex and NSFW topics, but we could not put that on social media. We could not run ads to drive people to it because it breaks a lot of TOSs.
Yeah.
And we could not put it on the homepage because advertisers would freak out. So it would be this hidden underbelly of a website where you and others were doing really excellent journalism about important topics that no one would see unless you were searching for it. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was very lucky because by the time I was brought on as a permalancer and then full time at Daily Dot, and my focus when we eventually did that was specifically to be an NSFW reporter. Like there was a lot of editorial support from, Ramon and Chris, who was my editor at the time.
Right.
They were really excellent towards me and supported me in a way that I oftentimes haven't had that same level of support. I consider both of them like very, like integral to the career I've had. I wouldn't be doing this beat without either of them. And what I found very quickly was that I was lucky because I had been building a platform doing coverage on things like, political issues, queer issues, things affecting the trans community, and also general games journalism. So when I started to branch out to covering adult games, there was this feeling in the air from my readers of this feels really cutting edge and avant-garde. And there was this feeling from adult game developers, like finally there's an advocate in the room for us. It was really interesting because it was one of the first beats where, even people that disagreed with me on my politics still had this feeling of respect for me. Like I would talk to certain developers who really were not left leaning at all, or certain people in the media space that were not left leaning at all. And they really felt like, I wouldn't call them like right wing, but, they're kind of right of center. They have grievances with very, a core focus on identifying when a game is doing something offensive, but they would sit there and say okay, but at the end of the day our values are aligned because you care about things like my ability to put food on the table or my ability to prevent my content from being censored. So in a lot of ways it was a really interesting beat, but also felt like every day I would write something and I'd be highlighting these adult games that never would ever get press coverage, and I could tell that my presence in that space gave people it did put food on the table by getting the word out about the hard work they were doing. So I'm very proud of that. I feel like I did something that made a real monetary difference to a lot of developers. Yeah,
it's a huge community and ecosystem of games and art that is invisible because you can't put most of it on social media. So imagine we know how hard it is to make a video game, and imagine putting all the blood, sweat, and tears in, and then no one sees it because it's totally invisible. And of course, you're giving that visibility and that voice to them. I feel like, didn't we talk about Subverse a long time ago? Maybe not here, but on another show or something. And you had covered that pretty extensively, which I don't know, was the poster child for adult games for a hot minute. And then, well, before we get into today's topic, what are your observations about the space in general? And I would say, like, every day I log into Steam and I look at, I'm like, what's hot? What's trending? What's hot? What's popping off on Steam right now? And I look at the charts, and it's like, oh, here's this AAA sequel that everyone, here's the Xbox game. And at the top of the list, it's like Sex with Hitler. And it's the number one game on Steam. And I'm like, wow.
Isn't that true?
So like, what are you seeing as a person who covers the space very deeply?
I will say that Sex with Hitler has a lot of cultural recognition among gamers because it's such a bizarre thing. Although I'm proud to announce that Sex with Hitler is not the most popular adult game on Steam. I think we'd have some serious questions about the proclivities of people who want to A, have sex, and B, with Hitler, if that was the case.
I don't know anything about this game, but my question for you or the world is like, is this parody is the wrong word. Is it a game of social commentary about the concept of Hitler and sexuality? Or is it like, no, man, I just want to fuck Hitler. Like, that's my dream.
You know, honest to God, I never sat down to cover Sex with Hitler, but if I recall correctly, I believe there's a Sex with Hitler too. Like, it was,
of course, the sequel.
There was a second Sex with Hitler, which, I mean, it's like, everyone asks if sex is so good, why isn't there a sequel? They came out with sex too, and it's with Hitler. Who would have thought?
All right, Hitler aside, though, what are you?
What a statement!
I don't know what I'm asking. Trends or because like when you cover mainstream games or indie games, it's like it's Stardew Valley meets Call of Duty, then that's you're describing games based on other games and genres. So like what's going on? Are they all visual novels or what is it?
No, it's a good question. It's complicated because I feel like let me put it this way. I think there's a lot of games that really trend on Steam that are a little bit more cookie cutter, not quite shovelware, but they're close to that category. And then there's games that trend on Steam that are, in fact, I would consider like truly, I think really great works in terms of good game development, good game design, and thriving communities. I'll give you a good example. Koyokatsu Party is... had like this kind of moment where, you'd have like Nathan Grayson at Kotaku, like kind of referencing it and stuff like that, or at least Kotaku itself. I forget who specifically. I think it was Nathan. And you would have these situations where people would say like, Koyokatsu was like, this anime porn game was the most popular game on Steam for the last month. It just came out. And, it's funny to think about, but Koyokatsu Party is this game that has like over half a decade later, still has a thriving modding community. People have all these tips and tricks about how to play the game. They say, hey, look, like buy it, but grab it from Steam, whatever, but don't run it vanilla, run all these sick mods we have for it.
I didn't even think about the modding scene for these games, but that is extraordinary. Like that is where you want to be, of course.
Exactly. And it's interesting because in adult games, you have these games that have very high daily numbers, but then you have games that have high cultural relevancy. And Subverse, I think, is a good example of a game that had high cultural relevancy, but I think there was a general feeling of disappointment with the game. I think I was very critical, but also eager to ultimately give Studio FLW, the folks behind it, a platform regardless, because as in the sense of like highlighting that they were working on this game, because on the one hand I felt like there was this kind of awkward history with the company. People didn't always like the content they put out beforehand. They felt it was like too controversial, it was too extreme in terms of like non-con content, stuff like that. But on the other hand,
what non-con?
Oh yes, so non-consensual content in the sense that fictional adult work depicting fictional, non-consensual acts. Of course,
we will talk about this more as we get into today's topic, I assume. But this is helpful groundwork. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, don't get me wrong, like I'm an ASMRist and a voice actor in the adult space. I do that kind of content myself. It's actually kind of my specialty. I do like F4F or lesbian oriented
Mhm.
content like that, kind of role play as if I'm like a hentai villainess or something like that. But I find as well that, with Subverse, there's a lot of cultural relevancy for a time. It made a lot of money on Kickstarter, but I think the
Right.
feeling in the air is that it didn't really live up to the hype. But hindsight, looking back, about 5 years after the coverage I was doing on Subverse, I can't exactly sit here and trash on the studio because this was their first game, and also, it's not easy like delivering up to very high expectations. Like no one would be able to collect a lot of Kickstarter money unexpectedly
Mm.
and live up to the highest of highest expectations.
Yeah, that's an interesting trap. Yeah.
Yeah.
My recollection of Subverse, because I swear I either talked about it with you and
Mhm.
or covered it on another podcast, but that it was like meant to be. It wasn't just like, oh, it's a visual novel and then take off the clothes of the sexiest person. It was like, this is like we're making Mass Effect, but when it's
Yeah.
time to fuck, you can really do it. Like that was my memory of it, and so like that was interesting because they're like, oh no, they're
Yeah.
making a real game with gameplay, like an
Yeah.
RPG where you are actually in space doing things.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do recall it kind of falling flat, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
A shame. A shame
It is a
because
shame.
it did have
Yes.
potential. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So many more questions in general, and I'm sure listeners are eager to hear more about this stuff. And truly, if you're listening to this and you're interested in this topic, let us know in the Discord. We can always chat with Anna further as we go, but
Yes, please.
not live, but of course, on a future episode or via Discord or email. But this week we started to see rumblings that Steam was removing or delisting a variety of adult games from the platform, and that kind of triggered like what's up, or
Right.
like they were changing their policies or something. So walk us through what started to happen and what you started to figure out there.
Yeah. So last week, it's very interesting actually because this is something where you see both legacy press and what I'm going to refer to as new media, i.e., YouTubers, talk about
Yeah.
it.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild, though? I'm sorry to cut you off. Remember, legacy media used to be newspapers when we started, and now legacy media is us because the YouTubers are the new ones. Go on.
Yeah, no, it's very funny. I've written about this with the realm of news VTubers and newstubers who are covering industry news. It's fascinating. But yeah, last week there was rumblings, and I wasn't the first to the rumblings themselves. There was a couple outlets that were covering that this was happening, just generally that it was. And what ended up happening was essentially Steam had, kind of silently updated their documentation for publishers and developers, essentially saying that, we have to play ball with the rules and guidelines of our payment processors, banks, internet providers, etc. And there's certain content, specifically, adult-oriented content that might not fly by the guidelines of our publishers. Obviously, that's not the literal wording, but that's, I would say, pretty good paraphrasing. And what was found after that was an assortment of games were removed, and a lot of them seemed to share similar themes, mainly around aspects of incest content. So we're talking here, just to be clear if everyone, we're not talking about real life depictions of that. We're talking about fictional adult games with fictional adult characters, depicting them, with consenting performers performing, acts of incest, right? These games were on Steam. And they were available to purchase, and a lot of them were removed. And so people started to dig into this. They wanted to know, why did this happen? Because as has become the trend since OnlyFans nearly removed its adult content about a half a decade ago.
Wait,
Yes.
back up. What do you mean by that? OnlyFans removed its adult content?
Yeah, so I should be more specific too. So OnlyFans actually came very close to removing explicit sexual content.
I remember this,
yeah.
but I don't know what the status of it is now. Like, what is their
Yeah.
policy today?
Good question. Actually, it's a very fascinating case. I remember I had left Daily Dot at the time, and it was so urgent. I literally talked to my former editor. I was like, "Can I come back to just write about this?
Just to write this one article?"
Let me just come back right now. Okay, we're done. Goodbye.
I quit. Can I be a freelancer for 1 second? Thank you.
That's literally what happened, because it was that important though. Basically what ended up happening is, OnlyFans, and by this time obviously it was a household name. OnlyFans announced that essentially it was at risk of removing explicit sexual content. It was moving in that direction, and I forget if they specifically said that payment processors were to blame, but it obviously became,
this sounds familiar.
Yeah, it became public knowledge regardless. And
could I just clarify?
Yes.
When we say explicit, do we mean like intercourse or like
penetrative sex?
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can
Or
still
penetration.
show all the body parts. It's just about penetration.
If I recall correctly, that was what the policy was going to be. Basically, softest of soft core.
Okay.
And, what we would refer to as hardcore just basically means, penetrative sex. It's not actually, like the most extreme rough sex you could see in pornography.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, essentially it was going to be like a hardcore to softcore policy. And from my recollection, and there was such a public outrage, and it was targeted at payment processors. Like, people were furious that a payment processor was coming in and basically twisting OnlyFans' arm.
This is really good context because it's obviously connected. I'm glad we arrived here. This was, you said 5 years ago? This is 2020?
I think it was 2021.
2021.
I think it was moving into the fall of 2021, late summer, that it happened, if I recall correctly. And
do we know why do the payment processors care, or was there pressure from outside groups at that time?
It's hard to say if that specific instance, but OnlyFans by that point, the moment it became a household name, that was a blessing and a curse. Obviously, everyone now knows like the prominence and like the approximate nature of sex work, i.e. like, someone you knew in high school that's like, 10 years later started doing OnlyFans during the pandemic, like everyone knows. But and it doesn't feel like this bizarre thing. It seems very approachable, and it's like, everyone always says, my job sucks, at least I could become an OnlyFans model. Boys, girls, and non-binary people alike. What ended up happening with that case is it's hard to say specifically whether they were pressured, but I presume they were, because the moment OnlyFans became a household name, every organization that argues pornography as a social ill was taking aim at them, because they were the hot new thing that was, the adult, the smut provider, right?
Yeah, right. So, and corrupting the youth and whatnot.
Yeah. As for why payment processors care about this issue specifically, I think it's important to stress that it's complicated. Like, it is a very complicated issue. It's not just, three, stuffy like WASP guys that are like on, death's bed, like sitting there saying like, I would like to take away the porn. It's not like that. It's not like a bunch of WASP guys from the country club sitting there. I mean, it is WASP guys from the country club also making these decisions and stuff. But what's happening in these situations is a lot of both being pressured, but also, this idea that certain transactions are high risk in the financial world, and porn has traditionally been considered a high risk transaction. Now, the issue,
but like legally, you know what I mean? Like, legally speaking, and I don't know, and maybe you don't know specifically, but like, okay, if I buy a bomb and blow up, a government building
FBI.
with yes, FBI, thank you for listening. And I do that with my credit card, is Visa liable for terrorism? Like, how? You know what I mean? So like that is the worst and most extreme case of, I used a credit card to do something terrible. Yeah. Why would Visa be liable for that? And then shrinking that down to porn. If I use my Visa to buy an incest video on OnlyFans, what the fuck does Visa care about that? You know what I mean? And I know you're trying to answer these questions in your coverage, of course.
It is a good question because ultimately, I think the feeling of not just those of us that are advocating about this issue and writing about this issue, but also I think the average American is why the fuck should they be involved? The
Right.
analogy that I use a lot is, people mention this in terms of bookstores and stuff like that, but I actually think it makes sense thinking about ordering food at a fast food place. Like imagine if you go up to a cashier, you're at McDonald's and you're like, I would like a Big Mac, please. And the cashier says, okay, processes your orders, about to take your money, and then says, actually, I think you need a salad. You shouldn't have the Big Mac. It's like, well, you had it on the menu,
Right.
and I have the money, and I literally see the people behind you ready and willing to make the Big Mac.
But
you're the cashier.
Well, I like this analogy, but it's almost like if Visa was the one, because like Steam changes policy, of course, but they're not, what do we know? But Steam, as far as we can tell, does not want to make this change.
Yes.
It's not the cashier at McDonald's who is withholding the purchase. It is the little credit card machine that is saying, oopsie, sorry, this Big Mac's not good for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
buddy.
exactly.
Get something else.
Exactly.
And I don't understand this at all.
No, yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, like Visa's job is to put put the fries in the bag. Like it's not to decide, what can be ordered or how. They're a payment processor. Their job, their responsibility is just to handle the money. It's like if you're trying to purchase something, you give someone $5 and they decide to throw it back in your face. You're the middleman. Give me what I ordered.
Correct. So Steam changes policy, and in that policy change, you said it was somewhat invisible, but like someone, perhaps you or other journalists, were reading the terms of service, and so you alluded to like, okay, Steam is saying, hey, we don't want to run afoul of payment processors.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Like they were transparent somehow about that. So
that specifically said it was the rules and guidelines of payment processors.
Got it. So that raises some little warning bells for some journalists and gaming communities. So what happens next? How do you, where do people start digging on that?
First, I got to stress, this is not the first time that payment processors have even started to enter the conversation. When I first started reporting on this at the tail end of the 2010s, platforms would kind of run interference for payment processors publicly. They wouldn't directly state that, a payment processor made me do this. And over time, that started to change. I kind of grilled Patreon about why they started banning hypnosis content around 2018, 2019.
Right.
Non-consensual.
Didn't they change policies around sexual content as well?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically what ended up happening is, I grilled Patreon in about 2018, 2019, and they told me directly, this is because of our payment processors. Then the OnlyFans situation happened. They said, essentially it became public knowledge that was because of their payment processors. Then in 2014, Patreon, Gumroad, Pixiv, Cuddly Octopus, a couple other places were forced to make changes because of their payment processors. And I believe Cuddly Octopus was open about this, and also Cuddly Octopus is a Dakimakura or anime body pillow company. So we're talking about physical goods here. We're not even talking about digital things. They sell covers, anime body pillow covers. It was the case where, Gumroad specifically said somewhere along the line, I believe it was a customer service person, but I forget the specifics, someone associated with Gumroad spilled, this is because of payment processors. And we've heard that other folks, in our space are navigating this issue as well. Like this is not just us.
Again, I keep asking, why? Like, why do they care? The thing, just as a quick aside, the thing that's interesting to me about Patreon is that Patreon hosts the content. So if I put some sort of non-consensual essay type video that is suspicious or problematic on, and I upload it to Patreon servers and charge money for it, I could see why that could be a big problem for Patreon, the company. So that I feel payment processors are an issue, and like putting the content on your site. But I guess Steam is hosting that content too. So anyway, it's so. Please go on.
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
And over this past couple months, Fansly also had to change its policies. They banned furry content.
Really?
Yes,
Why?
recently it was a big issue with the VTubing
Jesus.
community, because there are furries in the VTubing community, and there's furries that are not in the VTubing community as well that were doing adult content on Fansly that was furry themed. And these are running themes. Payment processors like to target incest content. They like to target furry content these days. They like to target hypnosis content. Like, it's sort of the thing where it's like, you look at a platform and they just so happen to once again ban the same thing that's been getting scrutiny at other platforms. It's like, you can tell, even if a platform doesn't say that a payment processor was responsible, because one, it's suspicious. Why would you randomly change things? But two, it's like, oh, it's that hyperfixation of theirs. It's that obsession of theirs. No more incest content, because Daddy Mastercard, Mommy Visa said so, so.
And again, I keep bringing us slightly askew here, but like, if you go to any porn tube site, it's full of incest shit. So like, why is that different? Is it because those are mostly free sites or freemium sites where you don't have to pay for that? They're not beholden to processors in the same way. Like, what? Why?
I've been reporting on this beef for so long, and you could probably sense even I was dodging saying it for a specific reason. Because in the end, I can say all this stuff about being at high risk or getting pressured, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And I think anyone who consumes this content knows it doesn't make sense. Maybe there are some things behind the scenes that none of us are privy to, but I do think you also have to factor in the fact that, some processors might just simply not want to ever be associated with that kind of content, period. And I think, I've also heard rumblings from folks in the advocacy realm that they also think sometimes platforms do want to ban content, but they do pass off the buck to payment processors. They say, oh, Mastercard, oh, Visa made this
that's
an
very
issue.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I don't think that's the case of Steam. Definitely not the case of Itch.io, which was also targeted, another digital indie storefront that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with by now. But it's hard because it is a bit of a black box, and we don't know. And like a lot of things in contemporary America, particularly, it doesn't make sense. Like there's no rhyme or logic or reason about it. I mean, no one is, the average person is not sitting there and thinking, oh, when I think of MasterCard, the first thing I think of is like Fuda Femme Dom Incest Mommy 5. Like, that's just, I think of like, buying like, I don't know, like a Celsius at the bodega downstairs.
Yeah. So everything you're saying makes me think like maybe those WASPy guys who run Mastercard and Visa are, right-leaning, right-of-center, buttoned-up, conservative type people. And when those types of moral panic advocacy groups get a hold of them, they are, as individual human beings, being like, oh, they're clutching pearls and saying, well, we cannot. So that leads me into the next moment of the story, which is that there is some like advocacy activism stuff going on in the background that is clearly influencing the processor. So what did you report on in that regard?
Yeah, no. So essentially last week, because all this started last week, and then sort of gamers and concern, kind of like consumers started doing some digging into, where is this coming from? And there was this one Australian organization that was basically taking a victory lap about it. They're like, come at, like, basically in so many words,
we did it.
Yeah, we did it. We did it.
We got him.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, mission accomplished style stuff, like complete with the banner in the background. And
I went to their website because I was like, well, surely there must be more to this story. And it's like, nope, they're just doing the victory lap. Like,
they are.
Porn is the worst and it must be eradicated. We did it. High five. And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, it very much. They're also just literally. It does seem a lot like they're just trying to get headlines in a lot of ways too. Also, funny tangent. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the organization we're talking about, Collective Shout here, their logo looks like a butthole. Did you notice that?
Now I got to go back and
Yeah.
ooh, that's going to be the thumbnail of the episode. Although I don't want to like promote their logo, but anyway, yeah, I'm Googling.
It's funny. It's like, have you ever seen Community where it's like they come up with the logo and it looks like a butthole?
It's a blind spot for me. Oh, the little asterisk thing, or
yeah, like
I see.
In Community they have like the little, it's a bunch of arrows and it looks like a slightly detailed anus, and then Collective Shout, it's like life imitates art, art imitates life.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
These are some of the headlines of their posts.
Yes.
Child protection experts backing our campaign. Speak out on games normalizing sexual abuse. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Question mark. Okay, so
yeah.
What is that? What is this thing, and what is going on here?
Yeah, no. It's I think the thing with Collective Shout is I want to stress that like the work that I did is thanks also to gamers, and consumers like ringing the alarm bells. They were the ones that first, YouTubers as well, streamers, they were the first ones that are coming in and saying, I think this group is responsible in creating content around it. So those initial reporters, kind of got the word out. And then from there, I came in and started reporting on it. And what I found was that Collective Shout is seemingly, the question everyone has is, this seems like kind of like a 2-bit operation, a rinky-dink, kind of like Australian organization that, no offense to the Australian listeners out there, but they seem to be like a very small organization. Why are they punching so heavily above their weight? And that was a question that I had as well, because it did seem like they were just trying to do whatever they can to point to specific things that they felt were controversial in the representation of women and, young girls in media. And they're kind of trying to make a big stink about it. A lot of what they were doing is oriented in anti-pornographic stances, anti-sex work stances. And it became very obvious over the past week that they were very fine, kind of their co-founder and the organization itself seems very fine, kind of associating with more transphobic individuals in the anti-sex work space. So I don't think the org itself is like blatantly transphobic. I haven't found them saying any transphobic rhetoric, but it seems pretty obvious that they're cozy with transphobes. And at some point, if you're hanging out with transphobes, you might as well, just call yourself one, and it seemed like this was basically what I'm saying is like dyed in the wool, like swerf and turf, sex worker exclusionary radical feminist, trans exclusionary radical feminist. Yeah, swerf, very much that. And so I did an article about them because a lot of things about them didn't add up. So I had done a lot of reporting on Steam censorship. And there was a story, it was a very interesting story, I believe it was from 2020, that I did, where Manga Gamer, a very well-known popular publisher, this is the kind of publisher that does 18-plus visual novels, and you'll see them in Faku at conventions around America, right? Manga Gamer was set to publish a game on Steam about 5 years ago, and Steam suddenly pulled it, and everyone was wondering what the hell's going on. So I decided to report on it at Daily Dot, and what I found was... Doug Lombardi at Valve, Valve runs Steam, responded to my request for comment and said, this game that Manga Gamer want to publish, we found a hidden depot file in the game that appeared to depict a sex scene with an underage character. So even though that inaccessible hidden depot file is in the game, we're going to have to pull the game unless it's removed. And so Manga Gamer did a review of its depot files. They did find that actually there was a hidden inaccessible sex scene. They removed it. It was ready to go. But Manga Gamer's publisher said, the allegation that the character in the sex scene is underage is not true. We basically, in so many words, they said we resent Valve for saying that. I believe they even called it libelous and or libel. And I remembered that story very vividly because I did break that story about half a decade ago. And so I was sitting there looking at Collective Shout stuff 5 years later, and I noticed that they were stressing, a couple themes, games of rape, non-con, games of incest, and they said games of child abuse. And their co-founder was calling people upset with the Steam censorship pedophiles on Twitter. And so I was sitting there and I was saying, there is no universe in all of the multiverse where Steam is publishing child abuse games, because if they are so, excuse my language, but it's fitting because we just talked about their logo. If they're so anal about a hidden depot file of a character whose age is debatable,
right,
they are not publishing child abuse porn games. They're not publishing, what we call Shotokan Lolicon. Okay, like there is no realm of possibility where that's happening. And so I pointed that out. I was like, this is just completely not feasible. And PC Gamer, they did a very good write-up about this issue after what we're leading to, which is my articles being pulled by Vice. PC Gamer did a write-up where they even looked at the numbers being claimed by Collective Shout, and they said, whoa, wait a minute, even their numbers don't add up. Like, it seems like something is up with what they're alleging they've even accomplished. So I think it's important for people to remember that this seems to be, and there's so much more stuff, this seems to be an organization eager to fudge the facts and play with logic and facts and lie in order to get accomplished, basically getting headlines and looking like they got a fat dub. Like that is, they're looking for that fat W, as we say in gamer Twitch lingo, and they will do whatever it takes. My second article, which was also pulled, dug into the fact that based on a petition they shared in the past, it seems like their definition of quote unquote child abuse is likely games that are depicting children experiencing distress, like fictional children in distress, but games that are trying to make the player sympathize with those children, like they're experiencing abuse from an abusive father figure. The point of that game is to show the spotlight the issue of familial abuse, right? Like it's literally just it's just a moral panic. Like it's like the comic books moral panic. It's if you depict it, if you touch this, you're bad and you're trying to make people evil. Like it's crazy.
There's a deeper thing to scratch at here, which is so complicated, and I don't want to get too far afield, but like obviously, if you are using an underage person, a real person in a pornographic video, is obviously terrible and horrific.
Of course,
but like,
no doubt,
depicting it in art is, I am not advocating it, obviously, and it's not something that most people would ever seek out, but like, isn't that the way to reckon with these problems? If someone is afflicted with these challenges in their life, we want them to express it through art or, I don't know, rather than exploitation or seeking out content that is illegal. And I don't know what I don't know what the law says about depicting versus, doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me be clear here first. Detroit Become Human, and I suspect most of the games targeted for this quote unquote child abuse theme. Detroit Become Human wasn't depicting sexual abuse of children at all. It was just depicting, I don't want to say just depicting because it's horrific, but it was depicting a father abusing their child physically, not sexually, physically. Now, obviously, physical violence against a young girl is very much can be considered sexual violence because it's targeted misogyny, right, towards women. But this is not an instance where we're talking about a video game depicting, the sexual exploitation of young children directly. And I would argue that video games depicting indirectly that issue, those themes, they can be very powerful, right? Everyone remembers a book that they read in English class, right, where it talked about someone reckoning with the experience of undergoing, sexual violence in their childhood, right? Those books might not have directly talked about or depicted that issue, but it demonstrated it. It demonstrated the effects, I should say, of that.
This is the purpose of art.
Yes, exactly. And video games traditionally, and especially over the past, decade or so, as we've seen, more room on places like, as I'm sure we'll talk about, Itch.io, make room for, women, queer people, people of marginalized backgrounds who are at a higher heightened risk of experiencing sexual violence at a young age. There's been a lot of visibility for the way in which games can provide survivors or people that want to tell the stories of survivors the opportunity to discuss these themes. So as I talked about in one of my articles with regard to Collective Shout, I actually think the targeting of the game, in particular Detroit Become Human, is really misogynistic, because what it's saying is that, if you're what it's ultimately saying is, if you're a survivor of childhood abuse from a father figure, if you're a survivor of physical abuse from a man as a woman, you're not allowed to depict that in media because it could cause people to harm.
Right.
And that's misogynistic. It's saying that, essentially the message that it's sending is that if you've experienced this issue, shut up. And if you're a woman that's experienced this issue, shut up. And if you experience this issue as a child, you better shut up. And that's a conservative position. That is a right wing, not even right of center. That is a very, very far right position.
Look, Anna, I'm gonna level with you. We all know that if I watch Law and Order and I see someone get murdered, I'm going to go and murder someone.
Oh,
we've all done it.
Oh, my bad.
And we need to ban. We need to ban these shows.
I currently have a 5-star rating because of Grand Theft Auto. The military is knocking on my door. I've got the RPG. I've got the grenades. I'm about to switch to Franklin. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we've identified this weird right-wing transphobic advocacy group, and in Australia of all places. And also Visa, Mastercard, these are global companies, so I'm sure they are incorporated all over the place, but they are US banks, right? At the end of the day. So
American.
If you had some sort of big ass lobby group in the US, trying to push banks to do this or that, I'd be like, all right, here we go again. But it's so fucking random, this random small thing.
Yeah.
So that's going on with the payment processors. Steam changes their thing. You were formerly employed by Vice, writing for Waypoint.
Yes.
Did Vice create Waypoint, or did they acquire it?
This is such a good question.
I don't remember.
Vice and Waypoint, there's a very difficult history there. Waypoint was originally founded by, let me double check really quickly, since we're not live. I can do this. Who the co-founders were?
Please do.
Because I know Austin Walker. Yeah. So one sec. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll fill the time. Yeah, I all the acquisitions in media and who owns what and what was independent and what got set, in the world where, I don't know, the giant bombs of the world are owned by 6 different companies, and then now they're free agents again. I can't keep track of it anymore.
Yeah.
And Waypoint had or has a podcast.
Yeah. So let me put it this way. So Waypoint, Vice Waypoint was Waypoint was essentially founded about a decade ago, with Austin Walker leading it. And Austin Walker, I actually owe a lot to. I was an original one-time contributor to Waypoint back in the day. I wrote about Valhalla, one of my favorite games, and actually, funny enough, its depiction of sex work and how I thought it really did a fantastic job. Controversial article in its own right. A lot of people were upset about that article. And I was very proud of it. It was one of my first major bylines. And, I ever since then, I always felt like Austin Walker was an advocate of mine. He was always very friendly with me, and I would consider, me and him always have had a friendly rapport. And my feeling is Waypoint essentially was, and it feels good to get this stuff off my chest. Waypoint really was done dirty by Vice. They essentially kind of completely cleaned house. And what ended up happening is, there's a lot of story in between, but Vice's current owner, Savage Ventures, wanted to restart Waypoint under the Waypoint name. And so someone that I used to work with at Gamers was brought on as a managing editor. That's Dwayne Jenkins. And Dwayne I actually used to help manage. So it was very funny. He became my manager, but for a time I was his proxy manager. I was managing by proxy. And at the time, when Dwayne had assembled his team and needed one more freelance writer, he took all these folks that came out of Gamers who were also very exploited by Gamers, because Gamers became a bit of a content farm. Unfortunately, there was room for one more freelancer to come in. So at this point, Waypoint was considered kind of zombified.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of anger and animosity that a lot of folks were still writing under the Waypoint name because it was, in my opinion, correctly seen as, the work of Austin Walker's and his team. And I think that's a very fair assessment. There was a lot of stuff behind the scenes where we were trying to advocate to retire the Waypoint brand. I was negotiating to be like the official Vice of VTuber. And
retire it in terms in exchange for like just be Vice and cover games as Vice. Is that what you mean?
We want to use the name Vice Games instead.
Vice Games, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it would have been a lot more respectful.
It had more cachet or visibility or something, right? Was that
we
the idea?
just respected the prior work of that Waypoint did, and we felt a lot like all of us needed work, right? All of us needed to put food on the table, and there weren't any other jobs in games journalism that we could take. There weren't any other jobs that a lot of us could take, period, because of disability status. And unfortunately, what happened was, we were advocating to change the name from Waypoint to Vice Games now that, it was us. And Savage Ventures, the owners of Vice, they didn't want that. They wanted to stick to the Waypoint name.
Because meaning, so I'm getting a better picture on it. Like you wanted to close the book on Waypoint and leave it in the past because it was a venerable thing that did amazing work. But now that it's zombified, it's time to close it and start over, right?
Yeah, we wanted to not look like we were kind of,
limping along as an old thing.
Yeah, and trying to wear, the clothing of something that none of us really felt like we were. Like I felt like I was part of Waypoint's history, as a contributor that was doing sex work. Like I think my work there established, helped. It was one brick in many that I didn't contribute to, but one brick in a larger wall that showed Waypoint's important legacy. And even my hiring at Waypoint was at I guess new Waypoint, zombie Waypoint, was considered for a lot of people, they thought it was a sign that they were at least going to try to fit the spirit of what Waypoint originally was. Like this was actually a pretty bold move. So even if controversial, a lot of people didn't agree with me writing there, I needed money. Like I need to eat food. Like dignity's nice, but I also need to eat. So respect doesn't keep a roof over my head. I'm sorry.
So you continue to work there, and you're covering games and NSFW, etc. And then you cover this story. About the payment processors, and this is all last week-ish, running into this week. Yeah,
so there's a larger history where I'm butting heads with the owner of Vice, Savage Ventures, who swooped in and kind of revitalized and purchased Vice. And
just for context, what else do they own, and what is their general track record? Right,
it's research time again because I know some, but
sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just curious if it's like, they own 50 media companies, and they're all going to shit. I don't know. Whatever. Don't look it up. Just please. No,
I know a few. I can say. So some of them people will know. Some of them won't. American Songwriter, comic book, PC pop culture, Motherboard, of course. They also own
I didn't know that.
Noisy and Munchies. So they have a fair amount of brands, but the feeling in the air. I've spoken to other folks that have worked at Savage Ventures and other kind of circumstances, and the feeling in the air has generally been that this is a company that is a little bit, it's very venture capitalist oriented, hence the name Ventures. They're looking for a return on investment and pumping out, content to get traffic. Like that is the feeling in the air of these guys. Basically just exactly the same way that the upper echelon of gamers was. And their whole their whole vibe
if a venture capital firm owns your media company, you're not going to have a good time.
No, it's a red flag. It's the reddest of red flags. It's a bright, glaring red flag.
So you cover the story, and then what happens next?
Right. So essentially, what happened to me in Savage Ventures was first, we were butting heads about a lot of my content. Yeah. Yes, so I did a story on a far right VTuber that we got a legal threat from the VTuber I reported on after some time, and Savage Ventures' lawyer decided that it was legally risky to keep the story up. So even though there was no journalistic issues, there were no ethical issues, there were no issues of, credibility of the facts I reported on, they decided, it's a legal risk, so we're going to pull the story with no retraction statement. To give you an idea of what these guys are like, right? They're not very journalistically rigorous. Their main goal is to not have controversy.
And also that media companies are so fragile that even if your editor and boss's boss was like, we believe in you, we support you, but if we go to court, we will be ruined. So which decision? I was reminded of this recently as serial racist and shitbag Hulk Hogan passed away.
Yes.
And everyone's like, oh, Hulk Hogan. I'm like, this guy sucks and was a shithead and also teamed up with Peter Thiel to take down Gawker, even though Gawker had a right to publish his sex tape as a public figure. And this is exactly what you're describing of like, it's too risky to go to court because we will be ruined. And so anyway, that is on my mind right now as that stuff's taking shape. Okay. So this is, you're not on great terms with the editorial situation with Savage.
To be specific, so my editor, Dwayne, biggest advocate for me in the room, my whole entire editorial team. So the writers I work with, my editor and boss, biggest advocates, supporters of me in the room. But Dwayne's boss clearly getting annoyed with me. After the VTuber investigative story, there was more instances. They effectively kiboshed my NSFW coverage, which obviously stung very hard because my intro post at New Waypoint was like, I'm here to cover adult games. And so they're like, no, you're not here to do any of that. Put the fries in the bag, like just write about like goofy video game, like, oh, Stellar Blade's popular today. So
and was this generally because it's dicey with advertisers when you put sexy stuff on the website?
I think the real fear was Google Discover and Google. I think there was this fear that, the Vice brand could get dinged in Google Discover and could get dinged in Google. I think there was a rhyme and a reason, although it was a very illogical rhyme and reason because, I have a lot of SEO experience. That was a core part of my job for years. And Vice is already reporting on sex. They do all these articles about gooning and, they literally have like a cover story or like a members oriented story that you can get the URL for about like people that have sex with animals and people that want to have sex with animals more specifically.
So what, they're not putting the kibosh on that, but they are doing it because games and sex is too much, but regular sex with animals is good.
Which doesn't make sense because Waypoint's not a separate domain. Whatever's being published on, in the sex section of vice.com affects the Waypoint section of vice.com because it's still vice.com. Like Wikipedia refers to me as a vice.com reporter, refers to me as a Vice reporter, not a Waypoint reporter. Like we are part of Vice or work.
Payment processors, tech platforms, advertisers, all this shit that has journalism by the fucking balls. And that just makes me angry forever.
I mean, hey, this is, it makes me angry too, but I think, this is what our corporate overlords decided to play ball with. They could have, all of them are all friends with each other, or at least talk with each other, and they all say the same thing, we gotta do this advertiser-based SEO model where we try to perform well in Google, and look where that led to the whole industry. It fucking fell apart.
Exactly. And the internet should be about independence and about speaking directly to your audience, but we, the media industry, got in bed with the Facebooks and the Googles and the whatevers of the world because it was so much easier to get traffic that way. And now it's ruined. It is ruined.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if smart people were in the room and they decided, our model is going to be we're readership funded and you have to pay some money to read some of our stories, but we have a loyal readership that the goal is to be profitable in 10 to 20 years, not tomorrow.
Correct.
If that was the whole entire model, we would be fine. Like we would actually be very fine. But
correct.
People decided not to do that. They were, dazzled by the dollars of what if we just go viral on Facebook? Well, it's like, what if, one day Facebook tells you you could publish?
Exactly. It's a deeper thing. I think about this a lot, where it's like the world thought that the internet was stupid and trivial. So we did not assign value to internet content at the beginning of the web.
Yeah.
So everything was free. Everything was just people dicking around, having fun. And then when it was time to actually start businesses and make money from this, it was like, well, no one's going to pay for this shit because for 10 years it's been free.
Yeah.
So I call that the original sin of the internet. And it's no one's fault. It's just that, like, we just did not take the internet seriously. And now the internet is everything. Yeah. And we pay for none of it. Yeah. And we are beholden to platforms and advertisers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a very good take, and I agree. And it is where we're kind of at right now.
So, the interests, there are interests that are kiboshing a lot of your coverage and others on Vice and Waypoint. And so you start covering the payment processor Steam stuff. Yeah. And like, was there a conversation? Did your articles just disappear? What and did you get a reason why? Why were your articles pulled?
Yeah, no, good question. So, we already knew that we were stress testing it really hard by doing the first Collective Shout article. But, we were talking about it as a team, and we weren't talking about it in terms of Savage Ventures pulling it. We were talking about it in terms of, like, what if there's more harassment sent my way? Because I faced a lot of harassment for the right-wing VTuber story. Okay. And
from the public or from the VTuber themselves or what?
From, I would say, the more far-right elements of the VTuber community and the VTuber
the audience of those VTubers. Yes, I see.
Yeah, you got it. So, what ended up happening was essentially, I had a conversation with the rest of the editorial team about it. They were very nervous it could kind of blow up in my face with readership, and I just felt, look, like, this is such an important story. This is my bread and butter. We've got to cover this. And I'm glad I made that decision, first off, because it was, of all of the stories I've done at Waypoint, the most universally across the political spectrum, actually well liked. Like, it was people, there are people that would absolutely attack me so hard on Twitter for, how dare you go after this right-wing VTuber, and then they would share, like, bits and pieces of my Vice report. It was so funny. Okay. Like, this was actually, in terms of the original concerns of my fellow writers, it was the exact opposite. It was actually very, very well received across the board. But what happened was, I published the first articles, and then the second articles, both of those in particular, the second one in particular was the one that was really well received across the board. Okay. I woke up Saturday, and the story, to give you context, because I think this is really important, because the second of the two stories, the one I wrote on Saturday, was the one that really blew up. Yes. And was the most well received across the political spectrum. That one, I wrote it because a lot of the more new media folks writing about and talking about Collective Shout, I should say talking, and then also kind of the consumers, gamers, internet sleuths looking into Collective Shout were missing something that was a glaring thing about Collective Shout, which is they had an open letter calling on, all these payment processors to censor Steam and itch.io and any other digital any other game distributors that were distributing, the targeted, like, incest, non-con, rape, like, quote unquote child abuse games. And that was signed by NCOS, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Let me make sure I got that name right.
Is that a U.S. organization or Australian?
U.S. Okay. It was signed by National Center on Sexual Exploitation, which had its roots as a faith-based conservative organization from the 1960s called Morality and Media. And it was signed by... No. Yeah, I know. And it was signed by Exodus Cry. And Exodus Cry, for those of you that are really familiar with kind of the censorship arc of the internet, they were the main folks behind Trafficking Hub. They were the ones that got Pornhub to change a lot of its policies, really kind of watered down Pornhub, and just were on the attack against Pornhub, who as a result also faced its own payment processor issues. So I'm looking at this open letter, and I'm seeing NCOS and Exodus Cry, and I'm saying, a lot of the new media folks covering this wouldn't know this because they're a little bit new to this issue, or they haven't been following this issue for like 7 years. But
it's almost like if a journalist who has been covering a beat for a long time and has a deep knowledge of subject matter would be valuable in this situation. And not just have a cursory gloss over these key details.
Exactly. Because a lot of people became very interested, who's the co-founder? What's her skeletons in the closet? And, don't get me wrong, like it's important to look at the people that are running this organization, but
you're peeling back the onion layers and you're seeing much more in there. This is just great. Okay,
because I knew from the jump that these guys had powerful allies. I knew that a rinky-dink 2-bit operation was not going to be alone, the cause. And there was, it's NCOS and Exodus Cry, and NCOS, National Center on Sexual Exploitation, they specifically went after Steam in 2018, and their campaign to try to get a bunch of visual novels pulled from the platform actually led to Steam opening the door for adult content. Like NCOS has been like this bitter, jaded like entity that is constantly like railed on Steam since 2018 because they are so mad that they were not able to like get all of the porn banned from, or get all of the games with slightly suggestive themes, I should say, banned from Steam. And they caused the exact opposite. Steam said, so, like, you know what, fuck you, we're going to open up to porn.
Great. Yeah. It's a shame Steam got sort of caught in the pincers here, but my just layman's perception of Steam is that like they are good. They are a good company that does whatever they can to do right by their consumers and players.
I don't think they really deserve a lot of the blame here. I mean, obviously there are things they could have done better, like warn a lot of developers and publishers ahead of time.
Sure.
I think taking a more active stance, saying like, this is payment processors, we need your help. But I do agree. I mean, it's at the end of the day, they are getting bullied, which is a crazy thing to say for one of the biggest digital storefronts on the internet, but they are getting bullied. I think that should tell people,
banks, there's no one bigger than the banks in terms of commerce and whatnot. So
exactly.
So but I'm just trying to why. So you're uncovering this and you're writing about it, and you're getting traffic and you're getting positive response across the spectrum, as you said. What is the reason, if you even know, that someone is like, no, we got to take this down from Waypoint.
So my editor Dwayne's boss, Jameson Brown, contacted Dwayne early Sunday. So this is the day after the second article was dropped. These articles have been out there for a hot minute now. They've been all over the internet. And he says, in so many words, like, after everything that's happened, why would you publish this? Like, take it down immediately. And Dwayne tries to basically say, look, this has been great for Waypoint's reputation. It's a well-received article. If you pull this, you are basically opening Pandora's box. And Jameson says, let's talk to, I presume, someone in their legal department, a lawyer at Savage Ventures. And then within seconds, is my impression, basically was like, oh, yep, it's a legal risk. It could be legally risky. We got to take it down. Take it down. So, I'm a
legally risky, like Visa and Mastercard will sue us.
That's the thing. Jameson, Savage Ventures, they didn't say specifically who might bring the legal risk. They just said, yep, might be a legal risk. You got to pull it. And my read, of course, is that they knew it worked and got Dwayne to pull the VTuber articles that I did. And then also Dwayne did an op-ed about an opinion piece, rather. And so I'm pretty sure they were just like, okay, let's get Dwayne to like fuck off. Oh, it's a legal risk. You got to pull it. So at this point, Dwayne, what is Dwayne going to say? Is he going to say no? He's probably going to lose his job and they're just going to pull the article anyway. So Dwayne warns me that this is coming. And I told Dwayne, like, the moment that he messaged me, I'm like, if they pull it, I'm walking. Like, if they demand that you pull it, I'm walking. And he supported me on that decision 100%. So he announced when I was officially done, and I wrote on Blue Sky and Twitter that the articles were pulled, and I said effectively immediately, I'm no longer contributing to Waypoint. And that was it blew up because the level of Streisand effect that had.
I was just gonna say,
is huge.
Yep, great. May I just say kudos to you as a colleague and as an acquaintance / friend. it's so hard to walk away from a job and a good job and a paycheck, but you absolutely did the right thing, in my humble opinion, and also by doing it made the story the biggest story it could be.
Thank you.
So
you.
kudos, and I know it. I assume it was very stressful, and that you're in limbo a bit right now, and so I don't know. It's brave to do it, and I applaud you.
Thank you. I took that Waypoint job because I had to, but I decided that thanks to some of my reporting over the past 3 months, it's raised some of my platform and given me more basically, income through my VTubing. Like, it was not the reason I obviously began writing about VTubing issues, but it was a side effect of it, especially as I started doing more news content as a VTuber. And but more importantly, so it was a little bit easier than when I came in to make that decision, but not much. I still needed that income. And I do want to stress, though, that it wasn't just me that walked either. As my managing editor ultimately walked, 2 writers walked, the 2 remaining editors at Waypoint, who are freelancers, they remained because, they need the money that badly. So immediately the moment that my colleagues, my fellow writers, announced that they were walking, I wrote a post saying, guys, do not blame or harass or anything the remaining writers. They need the money that badly. But I want to highlight the fact that I walked, but also, like I said, the newsroom there was very supportive of me. So supportive that literally the man that was ordered to remove the articles resigned. Like, that is they are just as much I appreciate a lot of people saying I'm a hero and I did the right thing, and I did do this because I believed in my work and I felt it was the right thing to do, but they're equally also heroes in that story, right? Like, they did not have to do that, and they did that out of solidarity, which is a real I have immense respect and gratitude for those writers. I really hope people snatch them up ASAP.
It all sucks, but it's a beautiful thing, the solidarity. And so we applaud all of them. Yeah. And so, now you're freelancing and figuring out what's next, but is there more, the story is ongoing. So what's next? Obviously. So now Collective Shout is lobbying, let me back up. Twitch, I always say twitch.io, but Twitch, not Twitch, I'm sorry. Itch.io.
Itch.io.
Announced that they have sort of not removed NSFW games, but they have sort of not shadow banned. What am I trying to say?
De-indexed, I think is the word they use.
De-indexed, meaning they're harder to browse and search for. They're still there if you want them, but so I don't know. What happens next? People are very angry. The reason I even reached out to you is because it's the aftermath coverage of your departure was at the top of the game subreddit a couple of days ago. I was like, oh man, this story is really going nuts. I better look at it. And I'm like, oh, this is Anna. Great. Let's see what's up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what's going on now, and where do you see this heading?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's important to note that excuse me. The Itch.io situation, I think, is the thing that really was the final sort of lighting the powder keg, because at this point it's a pattern, and Steam, look, a bunch of shovelware incest games, a lot of people don't want to take a stand on that. Before the Itch.io thing happened, me and a lot of other, activist advocates, adult game devs were kind of talking about, how do we approach this issue? How do we get the word out about this issue? And our kind of general feeling was, we can't ask the general public to defend, incest games, but we can ask them to defend, artistic expression. And Collective Shout early on said they were going to target Itch.io. Itch.io de-indexed adult games. The story's a little more complicated, though. There's some games can't be downloaded or accessed. Some games people can't even cash out the revenue they've made at the moment.
Oh wow! Developers.
Yeah, developers.
They can't get the money. Do you happen to know if someone has bought a game on Steam that is now removed, can they still get it and access it if they've already paid for it?
I believe that should be the case, but that's not necessarily the case on Itch.io, is my understanding of the situation. Okay. Yeah. Because I have some games that have been delisted from Steam for various reasons, not censorship reasons, sometimes just like licensing issues, but you can usually still download them.
That's typically the case. But if it was some like, policy violation, then I wonder if that's a different scenario for certain games. But yeah, that's very interesting.
I think it's complicated. Like I assume if something like the visual novel where there was a hidden file and they had to pull the game.
That's the perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah. But with Itch.io, I know there's like there's even one game I want to actually specifically, let me find the name of it because I want to specifically like shout out the people that did it. The Hayseed Night was this one like safe for work LGBTQ visual novel that was also, I forget the specific way they were impacted, but they were impacted too. So I think it's also important for people to understand that like this de-indexing, I believe they're just de-indexed. They didn't have the downloading issues, but this de-indexing, it's not like one day it could affect LGBTQ developers. Like a lot of this stuff is already impacting queer developers. Yeah.
But that was and as I was starting to encounter the coverage, I was like, oh, we are millimeters away from the slippery slope where we think that LGBT content is bad for kids, so we need to investigate that.
Harmful to minors.
And then in a political climate like we are in today in the United States and elsewhere, like we're here, as you said. So
exactly, the phrase "harmful to minors," which you'll see in a lot of these state ID laws, which essentially force adult websites, because they have a certain percentage of adult content deemed harmful to minors, or really just having content deemed harmful to minors, are forced to implement these like very advanced and rigorous ID verification systems, like the one that literally just went live in the UK. Like all UK operating sites, all sites operating in the UK must now have age verification. Like the end result of that stuff is literally like the deplatforming of sites in certain regions, but also the long tail of it, they're not saying like porn, they're saying harmful to minors, because it's building in legalese that can eventually be used to argue that, exposure to trans women is harmful to minors, exposure to lesbian, like lesbians is harmful to minors. A 17-year-old looking up like LGBT sex education resources is engaging of content harmful to minors, even if, in a more progressive area, it would be part of the sex education curriculum in their public schools. So yeah, it's also, I would argue that we're already on the slippery slope. It's just what speed are we going at? And can we, kind of grab a branch before we go too far?
Yeah, it's the authoritarian playbook where you hide your goals in the clothing of protecting people and protecting children. And then and then the Trojan horse comes in and the frog in the pot is boiling and we don't know until it's too late. And then we are legally up Schitt's Creek. It's so fucking infuriating. And for people who are frustrated by this, I know that our listeners are, and there's always a feeling of powerlessness, especially because journalism is the way forward, and even that is struggling to exist, as you just alluded in your very personal situation. What do we do as regular people? Are you feeling hopeless? Are you feeling fired up? Where are you on this ride?
95% of the time when this happens, I feel depressed and hopeless. I feel like personally, I do feel fired up every time this happens, because I have this opportunity to be a watchdog, and I feel like every time I've been a watchdog, I've reported on these stories, regardless. I reported on Itch.io potentially doing this years ago, and people thought I was causing drama and attacking their favorite queer storefront, and I brought it up now. I was like, guys, I said this could happen, and Itch.io is not going to save you. And now everyone's like, oh my God, we should have listened. And it's like, like this is something that's been in the air. Like, this is not actually new. Someone decided to pull the trigger and try to go for Itch.io this time. But what I do say though is that I feel like, and I don't want to say inspired, but I feel like there is a possibility to change the winds on this, because you need to understand, when OnlyFans nearly banned its explicit sexual content, they ultimately reversed that decision because so many people were upset. And that shocked every organizer and advocate I'd ever worked with in the sex work and adult content and space. Anyone that was a source, or anyone that I otherwise wasn't a source, but I did advocacy and organizing work for, because I do stuff behind the scenes. And they were like, this is a rare W. And what that told me is that actually this is potentially could be a winning strategy. If you make it so toxic to continue to make these decisions, and you make it clear that people will look at Mastercard, Visa, PayPal as like the sons and daughters of Satan, and I guess the MB kids of Satan. I want to be inclusive. Demons, I'm sure they have all sorts of genders. Hundreds.
Oh, for sure.
Of course, yeah. If you make it clear to them that people will not forgive you, those payment processors will buckle a little bit, or at least delay further censorship. And so what I have been encouraging people to do is there's this really good site. It's YELLAT, YELLAT .money, MONEY.
Okay.
YELLAT Money. And it's got phone numbers for Mastercard headquarters, one US number, another US number, international, Visa headquarters, Visa US and Canada, Visa Australia, PayPal US, PayPal UK. And I've been telling people, don't email, although you can if you want to, but it's more likely to get ignored. Call them.
Yep.
Literally jam up their phone lines on this issue and make it clear you're unhappy. Be polite. Don't be like, don't yell at them. It's literally some like person that's not making much to answer all the phone calls, but
it's not their fault. The
it's not
person
their
who
fault.
answers the phone is not their fault.
It's not John Mastercard you're going to be speaking to. It's, Miss, like, I got 8 kids. It's not Jane Visa, she's not there. But call. And also, there's an ACLU petition that was spreading around, and it hit 100K signatures. It bumped up. So everyone was like, what the hell? We hit 100K. I said, okay, we did cross the 6-figure mark in terms of people saying, they don't want censorship from Mastercard. So now you need to also call the ACLU, right? Call the national chapter, call your local chapter, at them on social media, particularly Blue Sky, because ACLU doesn't really like hanging out on Twitter, but it loves hanging out on Blue Sky.
Great.
Jam up their social media notifications, make it clear that they need to respond as well. Just basically encouraging people to be annoying in a strategic way, right? Because I do honestly think that this is a rare moment where people are tired. People have seen this happen repeatedly across multiple platforms by now. And people know that if they don't stand up, that this issue is going to get worse. And this is one of the very, very, very extremely rare issues in our current political climate, where you will have right-wing gamers and left-wing queer content creators all on the same page and all doing the same things, calling the ACLU, calling, Mastercard, saying what's up, asking their favorite content creators to talk about this. This is literally a marriage of new media being upset about this issue and legacy media being upset about this issue. So I feel hopeful that this moment can be mobilized, but it does mean every single person has to speak up. Like, every single person has to speak up. And I do think if that happens and Mastercard and Visa know, that this will haunt them forever, and that some people honestly will stop using their Mastercard and Visa card. Like, I'll switch to Amex. Fuck it.
Well, first of all, I love everything you're saying. And for listeners, the links that Anna just mentioned will be in the show notes, and we'll share them in the Discord as well. Yeah. And continue the discussion there. Yeah. Yes. And there are no other credit cards there is no other way to transact money on the internet. Yeah. Aside from these 2 banks. And look, in this world, in this scenario, this is what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was made for, except it was co-opted by casino tech bros, and it was ruined, asterisk, maybe one day it will not be so shitty. You know what I mean? But this is what that was for. And we can't have nice things. So I guess what I'm trying to parse out here is if we don't like a platform and we don't like their policies, we yell about it and we boycott it. Right. But I can't fucking buy groceries without using my Visa card. So I don't know. What do we do? What do we do?
So I definitely agree, and this is a big issue that every advocacy group on this issue faces because it is a duopoly. And
It's a duopoly. Thank you.
what I do say still is this. One, at the end of the day, MasterCard doesn't want you switching to Visa. Visa doesn't want you switching to MasterCard. So, you can kind of play around with both of them. You can tell MasterCard if they don't fix it, you'll switch to Visa. You can tell Visa if they don't fix it, they'll switch to MasterCard. So you can do that. You can act a little foolish and say, it's your fault, you did this. I still think that that's an effective strategy. I also do think inevitably, I think this will come at the cost of as much income because it will limit visibility. But I do think adult game developers and adult content creators and queer content creators, I think people are going to start also talking to each other about what's the next step. I think everyone is operating on the assumption that hope that a change could happen, but we're going to have to start finding a solution. And it might end up being solutions like, using crypto the same way that people use crypto to, even to this day, and a lot of times to this day, still use it to buy things on, say, the dark web, right?
Sure.
There's a very long history of even, that we've seen like the Silk Road go down the one dark web drug site, the Tor drug site. There's still a history of using,
Well, right. I mean, look, we are approaching the event horizon where if pornography becomes criminalized, we go to the dark web to use Bitcoin to buy drugs, weapons, and porn because there's nowhere else to get it. You know what I mean? So
and it's not going to stop. People are going to buy porn no matter what the government does. And because deep down, more people like porn than people assume. It's a very popular artistic form.
Oh shit!
It's true though. People really do love their porn. It's a very lucrative industry, and I think the other thing too is that normally I would agree with you, but for OnlyFans because that showed that Mastercard, Visa, these banks, whatever, these payment processors, deep down, they can still bend the knee. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they did bend the knee then suggests to me that they could bend the knee now. Yeah. What I'm interested in as someone who's been given, has always had a platform on this issue, but is especially trying to take advantage of it because of the censorship I faced from Vice as a contributor. What I'm trying to do is stress test if this is a solution that can work a second time. I'm trying to see if we raise our voices, and this is the second time we can test it, right? Because this is reaching a critical mass. As you said, this stuff was hitting our games, but also, we were seeing people like Moist Critical talk about this issue, right? This is hitting people that you wouldn't expect it to hit. I want to see if we can do an OnlyFans again. And if we can't, then we know where the cards lie.
I see.
And if we can, then we know where the solutions lie. But either way, we're at least armed with information to figure out what we do next.
I love this.
Yeah, and I hope people are hopeful that even if we aren't able to reverse these payment processor decisions, that at least people know that this is an issue they need to pay attention to. Like, even if we don't win this battle, people are becoming armed with the knowledge and information on this being a free speech issue that's affecting them, and that freedom of expression is globally under attack. And I think some changes are going to happen. I know Visa was trying to push some very awful policies in Japan, and Japanese politicians are saying, no, we are going to look into what you are doing. I believe it was some policies about limiting adult content purchases in Japan.
Right.
The specifics are actually something I haven't looked too deeply into, but I know that there is a lot of there is pushback emerging in Japan around that in a way that we haven't quite seen before. So,
but if that's like governmental pushback, that's like, hey, we the lawmakers are like, whoa, we have rights and freedoms, and here, I have zero fucking faith that our current U.S. lawmakers will do anything to protect us from this problem. So, to your point, it is an activism, advocacy, hit him in the purse situation, not a like, can we legislate our way out of this? Agreed. Storm.
The only other thing is, it's also why I've encouraged people to flood the ACLU and to contact them, because the ACLU through its petition showed that it cares about this issue. They also did a write-up about this issue, I believe in 2023, in terms of sex work in general. So this is also the opportunity if our politicians won't do anything, and I don't think they will, although I know there's also discussion about advocacy for, I believe, a national bill that would address some aspect of this that's like currently in Congress. I'm not sure the specifics.
Okay.
But
But if the ACLU brings lawsuits, perhaps there is a court, a judicial solution or a way to at least address it somehow.
Yeah, or at least get some movement. Like at least see that the ACL is saying, hey, we hear you. This is something that we're going to start prioritizing more resources towards. Again, even if we lose this battle, I think there is the opportunity to get some more decisive victories in the long term. And the most important thing really is just you have to try. Like it is very depressing, and it feels a lot like these corporate overlords are controlling everything we can do about our lives increasingly, but you still have to try, because as the OnlyFans case again revealed, people did try and a miracle happened. And I think it's very likely that we could see this not be a miracle, but a pattern of potential solutions. So I got to try, and we got to try. And at least we can say we did give it a really good shot. And if we aren't successful, we can pivot that collective energy and say, what are we going to do now? Let's start figuring out solutions to make sure money is coming to the artists that we care about. You know, how can we factor in, for example, crypto to help support them? What steps can we take? So I think just the fact that there's so much public visibility on this issue, so much public concern, no matter what, I do think something good will come out of all of this. I think that's very clear.
Yeah. The Streisand effect alone is pushing the needle forward. So, you know, I came into this conversation feeling kind of bummed and not hopeless, but like feeling like we were stuck, and you have fired me up. So all the links that Anna mentioned and the sort of the phone numbers, the Blue Sky accounts will be in the show notes. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but in the few minutes we have left, let's talk. This is a podcast about games we like to play. So in your newly found spare time as an unemployed person,
which I have a lot,
what you been playing?
That is a good question. I'm actually pulling Steam up right now. So a couple things. So Valorant, obviously, I'm a big Valorant player. I over 1K hours with ease. I'm pretty sure it's like it's getting closer to 2K probably by now, maybe like 1.5K.
I gotta add you on Steam if you want to be Steam friends. Please. If you're interested.
Yeah. Oh, it's very funny, by the way. So my I have a lot of hours in Deadlock as well, although I haven't been playing it recently.
Are you in like a closed beta or something for that? Or what's the story?
I got invited to the closed beta pretty early on, like last summer, and I played a lot of it. I loved it. I felt like some of the balancing changes by January were not great, and I didn't like that they kind of forced the general queue of the game to have like the general queue of the game had ranked, like it was a ranked queue de facto, like there was no like casual mode. You know, I love playing games competitively, but I also I don't like rank and ladder stuff. I don't think that stuff is very healthy in the community right now. I think it's become a little bit too much of a elitist status.
I get it.
I think it's better to get better at a game through not having like ELO over your head. I've found traditionally I've gotten better at games.
Or give players an option to play casually so they can get comfortable without worrying about sweaty people.
Exactly.
Taking the fun away.
Yeah, like my main in Valorant is Jet. I have like a 35% win rate in Swift Plays, the 15-minute mode. But my like average combat score is basically like the equivalent of being team MVP or match MVP every game. Like that's a mode where it's like your performance, you know, you should be allowed to like sweat it out like me if you want to, but if other people want to run around with a judge and, you know, the shotgun and just like take dumb fights, it's like I'll take the 30% win rate, whatever.
Great. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Just for context for listeners, Deadlock is Valve's sort of in development hero shooter. How would you describe it if having played it?
So Deadlock is a 6v6, if I recall correctly. 6v6 MOBA, third-person shooter. Think of it a little bit like if Overwatch and Dota had a kid. League got to raise it a little bit, but ultimately allowed it to play third-person shooters. I don't know.
Okay, great.
It's so I haven't played it in a minute. I took a break from it and really went back to Valorant hard. But
are you in the are the play tests like limited, or if you're in, and you can play it as much as you want as it's like developed?
If you're in, you're in. You can stream it. You can, yeah, they opened the floodgates to allowing streaming of content after one games journalist was like, fuck it, I'm gonna break the embargo on it, which I was not a fan of that decision. I thought it was a little unprofessional, like to say like, I got into the closed beta, everyone else is in, so I'm just gonna like leak all this information. I didn't like that decision, but it's not it's an understandable one though, because everyone was fucking playing it by then.
Right.
So they open the doors to content streaming. It's very easy to get into Deadlock. Like you just have to know someone that's playing it. They send you an invite. Valve will confirm you pretty quickly. So
do you asking for a friend? Do you have any? You have any
of course
invites?
I do. For you, Matt, anything. Is that why you brought me on so I could get you a Deadlock invite?
We did it, friends.
Mission accomplished.
I don't give a shit about this censorship stuff. I just wanted a Deadlock invite.
That's the stinger. That's the opener for all of this.
Boom.
Wow. Networking works.
Well, hey, man.
I got you, though. I got you.
So you like it? It's coming along. Like, do you think it's going to be a contender to like make some waves when it comes out?
So I haven't played in 6 months, so I'm not sure where it is right now. I know they made some changes to the map system, to the map, and I'm sure there's some other things going on. When I played it, though, I felt like there's some balancing changes in the implementation of new heroes all at once that really made things a little lopsided. And of course, the lack of a truly unrated mode at the time, because they implemented ranked into the unrated mode, like was an issue for me. But other than that, I thought it was a really, really good game. I felt like there were things happening in that game that felt like no other game was properly going to capture the fun of it. And it just had such a good blend of basically Overwatch meets Dota, down to having a creep deny system where you can actually deny experience. For those of you that don't play MOBAs, MOBAs are a game where you're building up experience over time through, the meta of your lane. There's like different lanes that you fight in where like miniature RTS, like uncontrollable, like units are fighting with each other, and you can get experience from it. You level up your abilities in order to ultimately defeat the other person's base. There you go. Now you can go play Dota and League.
Great. We're experts now. We got it. And there are a lot of games that try to do that sort of like, first person, third person MOBA experience, Battleborn being the the infamous iteration. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate that a lot. That piece of shit. Hey, he took Duke Nukem Forever from us and made it not good. So that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I don't like him. What was it? I think Valve has done something, at least from what I played, really good with that third-person shooter meets MOBA blend. I am interested in coming back to it, not just because one of my best friends has begged me to play it with her, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. There's a lot of great heroes. Anyway, I mentioned Deadlock, though, because my friends list name, my Steam list name is Ghost Girl Defender, because there's Vindicta from Deadlock. She's like a Salem witch ghost girl who has like a sniper rifle. Her ultimate is like she can snipe and kill like low health enemies that are like in one shot, like body shot, whatever, it doesn't matter. But she famously does not wear shoes and does not wear socks, and Valve got the Foley for her feet perfect. I feel like such a pervert saying this.
What? That's really interesting, though. That's a cool little detail.
Slapping on concrete sounds exactly like actual like bare feet, like running in the summertime on concrete. And the way they nailed it, like, and the level of detail on our feet. My name on Steam used to be Ghost Girl Toes Defender, and everyone in Deadlock lobbies, the way Deadlock works is the chat system is not a regular chat box. There's speech bubbles that come out of the heroes on the top when they're talking to each other.
I like this.
So you would have like different heroes being like, "Who's this freak on my team?" And I'd be like, "Let me slurp them toes, though." When I joined Vice, I needed to start reaching out to developers on Steam for requests for comment. So I had to change my name from Ghost Girl Toes Defender to just Ghost Girl Defender. But I don't have a job right now, so I might change it back to Ghost Girl Toes Defender.
Let's get those toes back in there.
Let's get those toes. The dogs are out. Yeah, let's do this.
That's so funny. All
the
right,
Foley though is so good. Slap, 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 slap.
This is okay. This is So
now you really got to play.
I'm very interested in playing,
Of course you are
and
now.
MOBAs never appealed to me, but
Yeah.
I do like the third person action version of that a
Yeah.
lot because
Yeah.
I love those types of games.
Yeah.
And I tried to play a game called Predecessor. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a free to play. It is a MOBA,
No.
and it sounds like it has some DNA in common with Deadlock.
Yeah.
I found it to be so slow. I think it's a
Really?
very rich game. I think it has a large audience. I think
Yeah.
it's popular, but it just felt. And I don't mind slow games. I like games that build tension. I don't like it. Like Splatoon is
Yeah.
way too fast for me. So it's
I get that.
it's like start the match. I lost. I don't know why I lost. I
Yeah.
don't know what happened. I don't know how to get better at this game.
Yeah, I agree. Splatoon's like
So
that.
I don't mind slow drama, but something about Predecessor, the characters felt slow, and I felt like it was dragging. So I'm interested in Deadlock, and I've never touched Valorant. It's not necessarily my personal cup of tea, but in the very few seconds we have left, because I do have to jump out of here in a moment.
Sure.
Have you seen or heard of Wildgate?
I think I've heard of it, but not played it. Tell me about it.
As a fan of these types of games,
Yeah.
you should give that a look.
Okay.
It just came out, but I played a lot of the beta. And I've said listeners are probably bored of this by now. It's my game. It is my game. I've been waiting for it for a long time. It is finally really out, and I think it's some former Blizzard folks, but in a nutshell, it is Sea of Thieves, Deep Rock Galactic,
Oh, this
a
looks
little
good.
bit of Helldivers and Overwatch.
Yeah.
Mixed together and it's in space, as you're probably seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
It's 5 ships, player PvP. Each ship has a 4-person crew. And to my point earlier about the building the tension, you start in a random sector of space. The map is different every time, and you're moving through space and you're collecting power-ups. You're adding modules to your ship. You're upgrading your guns. You're doing a lot of PvE missions, exploring different points of interest, so that when it comes time to find the artifact, which is the capture the flag thing to get, you need to either capture the artifact and escape through the wild gate, which only opens after 20 minutes or so. Or you need to be the last ship standing. And what it is, it's a Millennium Falcon simulator where someone's got to jump on the pilot's seat and start moving the ship because, oh shit, someone's coming for us.
Right.
I'm going to get on the guns. Oh shit, there's a fire on the ship. I got to put the ship. Oh no, someone's boarding the ship. So I got to whip out my gun, depending on my character class and the loadout that I've chosen, and repel the boarders. The last thing I'll really say, I've played listeners, I'm sorry, you know this already. I've played a few games like this recently because it's my dream game. And even though this game is chaotic and can get sweaty and there's a learning curve, it's so beautifully designed that I know what I'm supposed to do. I know where I'm supposed to go. There's a marker for the entrances. When I pick up an object, there are markers all over the ship that's like, install this here, put this here, drop this here. So there is almost zero time during the game when I do not know what's going on. Now, I might get my ass handed to me. We might get boarded by a crew that is 4 people on voice chat who are perfectly in sync, and they're destroying us instantly. But exactly. But I have never felt like, what the fuck's going on? I don't know. There's no rage quitting. There's whoa, they really got us. Let's get into the next match. And the meta progression is great. It's exactly. The meta progression is great because even if you lose, you gain experience for doing your job in the game. And then you hop into the next mission and you unlock a skin or you unlock a gun. And I love this game. And it's not for everyone, but because you're a Valorant Deadlock type of person, If you have $30 laying around after being unemployed, get on in here.
My last $30.
I love it.
My last $30 from Vice.
Yeah, it's not free to play,
Yeah.
but it is. I think it's fairly priced, and there's 100 hours worth of gameplay without even buying the battle pass or
No,
whatever.
this looks sick. Yeah, I've heard of Wildgate, and it was something that was like it pops up on my radar, but I actually really like these kind of games as well. Especially kind of like these like either co-op with PvP or like these sort of like it's sort of like there's a PvP element, but it's very open-ended. Like I love
Emergent.
Playing, yeah,
yes.
Emergent's a good way to put it. Yeah, there's a little bit of like creativity and self-expression through how to
Correct.
figure out the problem to solve.
Every single time I get into a match with strangers, and voice chat is important and good, but I never go on voice chat. So I leave it on so I can hear people, but there's a ping system where you can communicate. And to your point about emergent gameplay, every match I get into with strangers is an adventure that is different every time. So sometimes I played a couple matches last night where we found the artifact.
Yeah.
And we got to the end and the gate was open and we're like, get ready. There's 4 other ships. They're going to get us and it's going to be an epic fight to the finish. We get to the artifact. No one's around.
Yeah.
And we're like, where the fuck is everyone? And we just pick up the artifact and leave and we win. I was like, okay. And then the next match is totally different because one party has like really good borders and another party has like an epic like battering ram on their, like a laser battering ram on the ship. So you're like, oh, let me shoot these guys Millennium Falcon style. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. They have this laser that's just like blasting into your ship and you're dead. And you're like, whoa, that was crazy. You know, so I'm having so much fun with this game. I highly recommend it.
I love the idea. You honestly have me at Millennium Falcon Simulator.
Yeah.
Just so good. So good.
All right. Let me know if you get in there. We'll become Steam friends. Yeah. Anna Valens, thank you for your work and your journalism. Thanks for hanging out. I do really enjoy talking with you, and it's great to catch up.
Of course, it was a pleasure. I'm so glad to be able to sit down with an old Daily Dot friend and shoot the shit about video games and our favorite subject being censored on the internet.
Thank you for listening. We're going to continue this conversation in the Discord and talk about all the links that Anna was mentioning. And I do have to implore you to please be kind and rewind your podcast after listening, and we'll talk at you in 1 week's time.